it's a huge phenomenon in what has happened in the last few years with so many people who now have their own blogs. It seems to be very popular in many, many countries with people who have access to the internet, with people who have access to the modern communication technologies to now speak, do what they like, say what they like, and comment so much about what's going on in the world. It's something that's growing enormously and which we understand is very important and we have to think a lot more about. Yes.
Yes.
I think that there's some positive and negative things that are happening that are affecting the way we understand what news is and the way we understand what's actually going on with the world of journalism. The positive side is very obvious. More people are speaking, more people have a voice, more people are expressing points of view, and that has always been a concern for media theory that has said that in many ways the problem with media in communications today is that there are too few big voices, too few major big companies who have a monopoly or almost an oligopoly of all the voices that are being spoken, that most people get their news from the same sources and that the major media players therefore have too much power to create an agenda, to talk about what's actually happening. And we've always complained that there are too few voices that are out there in such a big world. What blogging obviously does is increase enormously the number of people who can participate and who want to talk about what's happening every day around the world, either with the news and with the issues that are going on, or more personally with their own lives. And that just means that there's more voices. And when there's more voices, this is good for democracy, this is good for the idea that more people can read these other blogs and other sort of news items and understand that there are other points of view, there are other ways of seeing things, and this is a very positive thing. I think to get more information out there is very good, but also I think people feel much better if they feel they have a voice, if they feel they can speak about any issue and understand that it is their right to express a point of view and to express an opinion about things. For many people in many countries this has not been traditional, customary sort of culture, and now they are being encouraged, and the technology encourages them to say what they are thinking, and that's a very positive thing. So that's on the plus side. Okay. Briefly, you know. On the minus side, on the negative side, on the worrying side, is that many of the people who are now blogging have done no research or have done no training for what they are actually doing. They're not really journalists who are trained. What they are basically doing is expressing opinions. They're not able to uncover what the facts are, but they're interpreting the facts and very often just making their own comment. What I think is a concern is that if more and more journalism becomes a question of just what is your opinion, we don't get the hard work that you need to do to become a proper journalist, which is to basically understand what the facts are and discover what those facts are. So good investigative journalism is journalism which really asks the person who's making the blog or the writing the articles to basically do the homework and to find out what's actually going on and to dig up the truth and to be trained to do that and to understand how to write and how to interview and how to make sense of what's going on. It's much easier if you don't do any of that and just say, this is my opinion, and you just give your opinion, and that really doesn't add that much. It's just another many number of opinions, which when I said the plus thing, it's a good thing that you can express opinion, but it's not actually helping to give the facts to allow you to have an opinion. And that's what I'm saying, that there's a confusion sometimes that we don't always see that the work that's involved with journalism is actually going on. And people can sometimes make a blog, which what it is like writing a diary. And so writing a diary is interesting and useful and creative and whatever. But if it doesn't become much more than that, I think it has very limited use. And the problem then, I think, is that people think, well, this is what the news is now. It's just people's opinion and just people writing their own feelings about something. And that's going to reduce the quality of journalism if more and more people do that, if that's understood to be journalism, which is why I think there always must be trained journalists to learn how to be journalists and learn how to write and learn how to understand what's going on. That's a really important thing. Well, I think there can be, again, positive and negative things.
Yeah.
When a journalist is, the established professional journalist is doing his or her homework, they can now look at these websites and look at these blogs as well as getting other information from other sources. So now there is additional information that can sometimes be very useful. So on this understanding we can see that there are more sources and more opinions that are out there, and the journalist can make use of these. So it has what I call a symbiotic relationship. That means that the media feed off each other. New media and old media are now converged, and so we see that the old traditional media, journalists working for, let's say, a newspaper, can now access all these blogs and can, the ones that he or she is interested in, and get more information and opinion, and now include what's on the blogs into the mainstream, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. So that's again a positive. The minus, the negative, the concern, the worry, and the more pessimistic view of this is that sometimes the journalist will be so influenced by these kind of blogs that they may forget to do their own homework, and because of the pressure of time they can rely on the bloggers to get the information or get opinions, that the journalist just becomes a bit lazy. And the journalist who has to be rushed, who has to make a lot of work, a lot of time very quickly, and deadlines, and they have to have this thing, sometimes can make the mistake of maybe using too many blogs and not checking how accurate those blogs are, and not doing the homework and becoming a bit lazy. I think that's the danger, main danger. Blogging is changing the role of media because more people are getting their information from online sources than newspapers. So, for example, newspaper sales and circulation figures are going down very, very regularly as more people are getting their information from the internet. More newspapers are becoming web-based in terms of how they're producing their newspapers, and maybe in the future there won't be newspapers as we understand them, the hard copy newspapers. Maybe there'll be fewer of them, and more people will get their newspapers online. Now the journalists who produce that will still be professional journalists, but increasingly they'll be using online sources and creating their content online. And that's going to affect the way media is understood. So more information will become from online sources. And when I say online, it means that people won't get as much information as they used to from radio, from television, and from newspapers, and will increasingly in the future get their information, I suppose, from their telephone, which is now the internet, which is now capable of getting all this stuff together. So media is going to become more mobile, and media will be not just more mobile, but more and more information will come from the internet, which will be on the mobile phone. So I'm saying that will be, in the next generation, some major changes happening for people who are now very young, but they will grow up and this will be seen to be more normal than older people like me who traditionally get their newspapers hard copy and who watch television news to get the news on television. Television will become more on the television news will be more on the internet, and will be more now streamed and be made podcasts, and we'll get in the future generations more people getting their information from those sources. There's no doubt that every now and then, not every day, but every now and then, there's certain blogs that make information available where the blogger has uncovered information that no one else has, that then people read, and then it spreads to the mainstream. It still spreads to the mainstream. It can't just stay on that one blog. What happens is someone has found it, and then they talk about it still on television. So today, even in America, Australia and Britain, if it's on a blog site and it's going to be a big story, someone will read it, someone will understand it, and then it will go to television, and then it will still go in the traditional newspapers, online newspapers. But you're right that now, with a number of things, with the Drudge Report, with other reports in England and America, we've certainly seen that there are some websites, some blogs that are very, very influential, because influential people read them and then they use the content to put into the mainstream. And that will change politics, and politicians will be aware of that more in the future as well, and they're using that information in the future to understand who they're talking to and how they're getting information out there.